Hailey Rose was 19 years old, and her life was a beautifully curated lie. She lived in a modest but charming one-bedroom apartment in Orlando, Florida, a place filled with the soft, aesthetic glow of fairy lights and the constant, gentle hum of a content creation ring light. Her annual income, meticulously tracked through brand deals, sponsored Instagram posts, and YouTube vlogs about her effortlessly beautiful life, hovered around $55,000. It was a respectable sum for a girl her age, a figure she quoted to her worried parents back in Ohio to assure them that her dream of being an influencer was a valid, profitable career. But the number was a fragile illusion, a house of cards built on a foundation of relentless hustle and manufactured perfection. To her 250,000 followers, Hailey Rose was a vision of sun-kissed, girl-next-door bliss. She had waves of honey blonde hair, bright blue eyes that sparkled with feigned innocence, and a petite, toned figure she maintained with Pilates and green smoothies, all documented for her audience. Her content was a symphony of soft focus moments, sipping iced coffee, ranging fresh flowers, trying on affordable yet chic outfits from fast fashion hauls. She was an expert at selling a fantasy of attainable perfection. A life where the biggest problem was a chipped nail or a slightly overpriced avocado. But behind the camera, the reality was a grinding, lonely anxiety. The pressure to be constantly on, to find new angles, to maintain her engagement metrics, was a 24/7 job that paid in likes and the fleeting validation of comments. Her boyfriend, Mark, a wannabe musician who basked in her reflected online glow, saw her primarily as a walking brand opportunity. "Babe, your numbers are down this week," he'd say, scrolling through her analytics. "We need to do a couples Q&A. Or maybe you get ready with me where you use that new skincare brand I got you." It's all about synergy. The crack in her perfect facade appeared on a Tuesday, a day that began like any other. She was filming a My Perfect morning routine video, smoothing her duvet for the 10th time, when an email notification popped up on her phone. It was from the management company that handled her biggest brand partnership, a trendy activewear line. The subject line was, "Contract non-renewal notice." The email was cold and corporate, stating that her demographics no longer aligned with their evolving brand strategy. They were dropping her. The loss of that single contract represented nearly 40% of her annual income. Panic, cold and sharp, seized her. She calculated the numbers in her head, her perfectly manicured fingers trembling over her phone's calculator app. Without that deal, she would barely make rent. The fairy-lit apartment, the source of so much of her content, was suddenly a financial guillotine poised above her neck. That night, she tried to explain the gravity of the situation to Mark. He shrugged, strumming an aimless chord on his guitar. "It's fine, babe. You'll get another one. Just post more bikini pics. Your beach content always kills." His dismissal was a splash of ice water. He didn't see the crumbling business. He only saw the body that could sell it. Later, as she lay awake staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars on her ceiling, a prop from a viral video, the full weight of her predicament settled on her. She was a commodity, and her shelf life was expiring. The girl next door was a dime a dozen, and the algorithm was a fickle, unforgiving god. Driven by a desperate, sleepless energy, she opened her laptop, not to her curated Instagram feed, but to the raw, unfiltered underbelly of the internet. She started clicking through links, falling down a rabbit hole of forums and websites she'd only ever heard of in whispers. She found herself on the platforms for amateur adult content creators. The women here were different. They weren't selling a lifestyle. They were selling a fantasy, yes, but one that felt more honest, more direct. They were in control. They set their prices, their boundaries. Their comments sections weren't filled with passive-aggressive remarks about their outfit choices, but with fervent, unadulterated admiration. And the money they could make. She saw screenshots of earnings that made her former brand deal look like pocket change. The video was released a month later. Hailey didn't tell a soul. She came home from her trip and broke up with Mark, giving him no real explanation. The initial impact was contained within the adult industry, but it was explosive. The girl next door with the breathtaking body and the professional polish was an instant sensation. Her fanbase exploded. The money became a torrent. She moved out of her influencer apartment and into a sleek, high-rise condo in downtown Miami. For the first time, the perfection around her wasn't a curated facade. It was a reality she had built on her own terms. But as the first part of her story closed on a note of triumphant rebirth, a subtle, chilling shadow began to creep in from the edges of her new world. The comments on her professional work were adoring, but on her old, now dormant Hailey Rose Instagram account, a few cryptic comments began to appear. "Isn't this? Oh my God, it's her." Someone had recognized her. It was only a matter of time before the carefully constructed wall between her two lives came crashing down, and the world she had left behind came to collect its pound of flesh. The girl who had traded a curated lie for raw truth was about to discover that the truth could be a dangerous thing to own. Mark, her ex-boyfriend, saw his opportunity. He gave an exclusive interview to a popular YouTube drama channel, painting himself as the heartbroken victim. "I had no idea," he said, shaking his head with practiced sorrow. "She was living this double life. I thought she was visiting her aunt. It's just so deceptive. She wasn't the girl I thought she was." His betrayal was a masterpiece of self-serving performance. And the public ate it up. Hailey became a prisoner in her beautiful Miami condo. The floor-to-ceiling windows that once offered a view of her new kingdom now felt like the glass walls of an exhibit. She was the main attraction in the zoo of her own scandal. She stopped going out. She stopped answering emails from the studio. The confident woman from the photo shoots was gone, replaced by a trembling, anxious ghost who jumped at every ping from her phone. The industry that had embraced her now showed its fangs. The respectful, professional offers dried up, replaced by proposals for revenge scenes and degradation themes, capitalizing on the public's perception of her as a fallen good girl. The money was still there, larger than ever, but it felt like hush money, a payment for her own public execution. She started drinking too much, trying to numb the shame and the overwhelming sense of exposure. The breaking point came when she was recognized. She had mustered the courage to go to a grocery store, wearing a baseball cap and oversized sunglasses, a pathetic attempt at a disguise. A group of college-age guys spotted her in the produce aisle. One of them elbowed his friend. "Dude, isn't that?" Then, louder, with a cruel, mocking laugh, "Hey, Hailey. Need any help with your melons?" The word, so juvenile, so demeaning, shattered what little composure she had left. She abandoned her cart and fled the store, tears of hot humiliation streaming down her face behind the dark lenses. She locked herself in her apartment for 3 days, the curtains drawn, living in the dark. She had wanted freedom, and she had gotten infamy. She had wanted control, and she had become a puppet for the world's judgment. She was at the absolute bottom, buried under the rubble of her two collapsed lives. In the profound silence of her rock bottom. A spark of the old Hailey, not the influencer, but the shrewd businesswoman, flickered back to life. This was a crisis, yes. But in the business world she had just left, a crisis was also an opportunity for a massive rebrand. They had taken her name, her past, her dignity. But they hadn't taken her talent, her face, or her newfound ferocity. She poured a bottle of vodka down the drain. She booked an appointment with the best PR crisis manager in the business, a notoriously expensive shark named Victoria Thorne. She walked into Victoria's office, pale but sober, her back straight. "I'm not here to apologize," Hailey said, her voice surprisingly steady. "I'm here to pivot. They think I'm a victim or a villain. I want you to help me rebrand as the victor." Victoria, a woman with silver hair and eyes that missed nothing, smiled. It was a cold, sharp, brilliant smile. "Excellent," she said. "Now we're talking. First, we see your ex-boyfriend for defamation. Then, you're going to tell your story. But we're not selling shame. We're selling power." The strategy was brutal and brilliant. Hailey gave one, and only one, interview. It wasn't to a tabloid, but to a major, feminist-leaning podcast. She was coached, prepared, and utterly compelling. She didn't shy away from anything. She talked about the financial precarity of being an influencer, the fickleness of brands, the soul-crushing pressure of maintaining a lie. She talked about Mark's parasitic behavior. And then, she looked the host dead in the eye and said, "I made a choice. I chose to monetize my own image, directly and lucratively, instead of letting brands do it for pennies while they dictated my worth. I chose power over permission. Did I make a mess? Absolutely. But I'd rather clean up a mess I made myself than live in a pristine prison built by someone else." She smiles, a genuine, powerful smile. The girl from Orlando, living a beautiful lie, was gone. The scandal-ridden star was gone. The woman who remained had been forged in the fire of public opinion and had emerged not just unscathed, but stronger.